After months of spewing nonsense, NASA reports that its Voyager 1 probe, the most far-flung man-made object in the universe, is now again transmitting useful data to Earth. The spacecraft is currently almost 15 billion miles away from Earth, having departed the solar system in 2012. After 50 years in orbit, Voyager 1 has made an unthinkable discovery. Since its 1977 launch, it has traveled outside of our solar system and unearthed startling discoveries. This alters all we know, leaving scientists in disbelief. Although the expedition was intended to last 5 years, it has now lasted almost 50. See what transpired during those years by tuning in. The spacecraft that refused to retire. In 1977, 2 daring space travelers set off on what would quickly rank among the most remarkable exploration endeavors in human history. They set out to uncover solar system secrets that could fundamentally alter our understanding of our role in the universe, and they succeeded in doing just that. These twin pioneers' missions are now considered legendary. For more than 40 years, they have been returning astounding data about interstellar space, not simply close-up photos of worlds we could only imagine comprehending. Yes, even after 47 years and 24 billion kilometers, they continue to teach us things that appear completely unattainable. One enigmatic signal, which suggests something beyond our comprehension, is yet unexplained. These 2 spacecraft represent curiosity, bravery, and tenacity and are more than just pieces of metal cruising through space. In addition to capturing our solar system's planets and moons, the probes also captured the dreams of millions of individuals on Earth. As the first human-launched objects to travel this far into the unknown, they are truly trailblazers. In order to document things we had never even dared to observe up close, the mission was to travel into interstellar space and beyond the boundaries of our solar system. Looking back, Edward Stone, the project scientist, summed it up by saying that prior to these missions, humanity knew very little about the solar system. These machines repeatedly discovered stuff humans were unaware existed. Their findings helped everyone understand that we were only examining a small portion of a much bigger cosmic puzzle, one that has more questions than answers. NASA came up with the concept for these 2 missions in 1977 by taking advantage of a unique planetary alignment that only occurs once every 176 years. The uncommon combination of Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune was ideal for allowing spacecraft to bounce from planet to planet, using the gravitational pull of each to shift direction and accelerate. In order to embark on an adventure that, to be honest, no one could have predicted would still be going strong some 50 years later, the explorers launched the second vessel on August 20th and the first shortly after on September 5th. These explorers' original goal was to examine Jupiter and Saturn, and if everything went well, perhaps Uranus and Neptune as well. Even though their intended mission was only supposed to last 5 years, they are still floating across interstellar space nearly 50 years later. Only a number of innovative design decisions made by NASA engineers made this possible. The probes were designed to be resilient. Although the technology they used seemed nearly archaic in comparison to modern technology, it worked well. Because they were powered by radioisotope thermoelectric generators, they were able to continue operating long after the batteries of a normal spacecraft would have died. The explorers had enough power to run for decades thanks to these generators, which converted heat from decomposing plutonium into electrical power. Now consider this, these probes' computers had less memory when they departed Earth than the key fob you use to start your automobile. They are actually still storing and transmitting data on 8-track magnetic tapes from the 1970s. Although this was cutting edge at the time, it pales in comparison to even the most basic modern gadget. Nevertheless, these tapes and sensors continue to function flawlessly in spite of being exposed to the frigid, radiation-heavy environment of deep space. They were made to be backup and flexible. 11 scientific equipment, many with redundant systems that could be shut off to conserve power or turned on when necessary, were installed in each craft. The success of the project depended heavily on the 16 hydrazine thrusters each explorer had, including 8 primary and 8 backups. Imagine this, after 37 years of non-stop operation, the primary thrusters of the second probe failed, but the backup thrusters, which had been inactive for 40 years, performed flawlessly. The team that constructed them is credited for their brilliant engineering and vision. When the first probe arrived at Jupiter in 1979, it got close enough to provide us with breathtaking photographs. Prior to these expeditions, no one got a close-up, in-depth look at the planets. Scientists were left speechless by Jupiter's tumultuous atmosphere and its moons. They anticipated seeing a planet with storms and clouds, but they were blown away by the whirling mayhem of the planet's famous Great Red Spot and a string of lesser storms that resembled miniature replicas of the enormous maelstrom. In a planet that was unlike any we had ever imagined, these probes discovered a vibrant world with high-velocity winds that were far stronger than anyone had predicted. The flyby of Jupiter's moon Io was the next major shock. When scientists looked at Io, they found vibrant, colorful volcanic activity instead of the crater-pocked surface that they saw on Earth's moon. With its active volcanoes that threw sulfur and gas plumes into the sky, Io was a living planet. This moon had a unique personality and changed the way that people in our solar system perceived moons. Then there was Europa, a frozen planet with a mysterious exterior that suggested something concealed behind its ridges and fissures. These clues pointed to liquid water, perhaps even an ocean beneath the ice. Could there be life in an ocean beneath the ice of a far-off moon? This was the beginning of one of the biggest cosmic mysteries of our time. We saw that possibility for the first time through these space missions. After exploring Jupiter, the Voyagers turned their attention to Saturn in anticipation of further revelations, Saturn's mysteries in Titan's mysterious mist. The probes traveled to Saturn after passing Jupiter. One arrived there in 1980, and the other in 1981. It turned out that Saturn was equally fascinating and enigmatic as Jupiter. Hundreds of delicate, exquisite ringlets were visible within its rings, which were thought to be 5 primary ones. They weren't dispersed at random either. Some had black spokes, mysterious features that initially baffled experts. These rings were dynamic and constantly shifting, not only a static aspect of Saturn. Titan, Saturn's moon, also came into focus. Titan is the only moon in the solar system with a thick atmosphere that is rich in nitrogen, according to data from the mission. Even though Titan's surface was entirely obscured by the orange-hued haze, it was enough to make people wonder, what might be underneath that haze? It served as the impetus for the Cassini-Huygens mission to further explore Titan decades later. By 1986, the second vessel had arrived at Uranus, a planet that seemed to defy expectations with its nearly peaceful, featureless blue-green atmosphere. According to the data it returned, Uranus behaved strangely because of an odd magnetic field that was angled nearly 60 degrees from its rotational axis. This was the start of the awareness that we needed to make major changes to our models of planetary magnetic fields. The Great Dark Spot, another surprise from the second probe, was revealed on the subsequent 1989 visit to Neptune. Neptune had a huge swirling storm system, similar to Jupiter's storm, but this time it was enigmatic and gloomy. The spacecraft's observations showed wind speeds up to 2,400 km per hour, which is significantly faster than scientists had previously thought was possible on a planet. Then there was Neptune's moon, Triton. With geysers that ejected nitrogen gas and a surface characterized by rough, enigmatic terrain, it was the coldest known object in the solar system. This mission gave humanity its first up-close look at Triton, a moon full of questions. The second probe's trajectory veered downward and out of the solar system's plane after Neptune. It was now on its last voyage into interstellar space, just like its cousin. The first vessel, however, had already set out on its own journey into the unknown. At Carl Sagan's insistence, it rotated its camera one final time in 1990 and took a picture of Earth from 6 billion kilometers distant. That picture, known as the pale blue dot, went on to become one of the most famous photos ever taken. The two explorers have been traveling to the extreme reaches of our solar system for years, traversing the heliopause. 2012 saw the first vessel enter interstellar space, and 2018 saw the second. They were the first man-made objects to do so, and the information they provided contradicted long-held beliefs about the limits of our solar system. In contrast to what scientists had anticipated, the heliopause was chaotic and tumultuous rather than smooth and pristine. The first probe encountered an unforeseen malfunction in recent years. It started sending out odd, jumbled signals, data that didn't make sense and suggested that it wasn't sure where it was. However, its antennas remained to aim in the direction of Earth, and data kept coming in, albeit jumbled. NASA was able to fix the issue, for the time being, at least, after months of investigation revealed that the craft had inadvertently switched to an outdated, dormant computer to relay data. However, the pair is becoming older and gradually failing. After almost 50 years of operation, it is anticipated that they will finally run out of power in 2025, with their plutonium fuel depleted. They'll stop talking. But they won't disappear. Long after Earth has vanished and people have forgotten about it, the spacecraft will keep drifting indefinitely. With their golden records, a message in a bottle that contains greetings in 55 languages, music, and pictures depicting life on Earth, the probes will continue to travel the world. One of these visitors might be discovered by an alien culture hundreds or even millions of years from today. They will gain some insight into our identity and aspirations. But for the time being, we have to say goodbye to these courageous adventurers and express our gratitude for the treasures they have discovered. Through careful preparation, a little bit of luck, and an unwavering curiosity that drove us to venture beyond our small corner of the universe, these spacefaring probes have embarked on a trip into interstellar space that is unlike anything else humanity has accomplished. NASA needed to strike a balance between ambition and pragmatism when designing these explorers. The engineers were aware that these missions might go for decades, possibly longer than they had originally anticipated. They therefore created machines that would outlive their own professions. 3 radioisotope thermoelectric generators power each probe, which generated roughly 470 watts of power during launch. However, that power production has decreased with time. Each generator's decaying plutonium-238 has an 87-year half-life, which means that the energy generated progressively decreases. These machines, however, have fared considerably better than anyone could have imagined. They are still able to gather and send scientific data in 2024. It was a difficult and unexpected trek into the heliosheath, the outermost layer of the Sun's impact. The solar system is surrounded by a huge bubble that is chaotic and turbulent due to the Sun's magnetic field. The solar wind abruptly slows down at the termination shock, which was passed by the first vessel in 2004 and the second in 2007. The solar wind builds up and compresses in this area, called the heliosheath, producing a hotter, denser zone. It is an odd, erratic place, full of waves of energetic particles and magnetic bubbles. More shocks were revealed when the Voyagers headed for Uranus and Neptune after Saturn. Messages from a forgotten world. When both Voyagers entered interstellar space, they were surprised to find that the Sun's magnetic field lines did not just halt at the heliopause but instead seemed to continue past it, bent and stretched by interstellar winds. Scientists were puzzled by the alignment of the magnetic fields inside and outside the heliopause, according to the first probe's data. The field lines appeared to blend together, indicating that the world outside the solar bubble was closer to our Sun than anyone had previously believed. They had anticipated a change, a clear limit. These explorers never forgot their mission, even as they traveled farther away from the Sun. Indeed, their value increased much further. They carried instrumentation for measuring plasma characteristics, magnetic fields, and cosmic rays. The equipment was straightforward, durable, and made to resist extreme conditions, and it did. However, it was not state-of-the-art technology by today's standards. These craft's cosmic ray instruments picked up particles from the galactic core and far-off supernovae, providing information about the wider universe that would be hard to obtain from Earth or even near-Earth orbit. These ambassadors have also encountered several difficulties. Their power source is running low, their equipment is getting older, and communication is getting harder. The first probe's signal takes more than 21 hours to reach Earth. They resemble old ships in several ways, slowly navigating the unknown waters of interstellar space, isolated from direct help, and dependent only on their own systems and a remote crew of engineers on Earth who put forth endless effort to keep them afloat. These spacefaring adventurers will eventually stop talking, but their tale will live on. They are carrying golden recordings, messages meant for any sentient beings who might come across them in the future. These recordings, which are intended to depict the narrative of our planet, include music, greetings, and pictures from Earth. It is an act of optimism, the hope that someday someone will discover these little crafts and discover the civilization that made them. The golden recordings were intended to endure for a minimum of 1 billion years. Made of copper and gilded with gold, they hold instructions on how to play them in the cold of space. They have greetings in 55 different languages, music from many civilizations, natural noises, and pictures that show the variety of life on Earth. The records were described as a bottle in the cosmic ocean by Carl Sagan, who was involved in their design. With a message about our identity, values, and aspirations, these pioneers continue to float farther and farther. As of right now, the first probe is the farthest thing created by humans from Earth. It is currently traveling across empty space toward a star known as Gliese 445 after having already departed the heliosphere, a huge bubble of particles and magnetic fields formed by our Sun. This red dwarf star is around 17 light-years distant and is part of the Camelopardalis constellation. The probe will travel within 1.2 light-years of it in about 40,000 years. Star velocity will bring Gliese 445 a little closer by then, but it will still only be a flyby. Like a wanderer without a destination, this vessel will continue its voyage in silence, going by undetected. In addition to distance, this lone explorer's voyage involves time, 40,000 years, a period so enormous it is unimaginable. The written record of human history will be ancient by that time. It's possible that the continents have moved, the temperatures have drastically changed, current societies have long since vanished, and humanity, if it still exists, has developed in ways that are unthinkable today. Nevertheless, this ship will continue to travel, a tiny piece of metal with the recollections of a period when people first turned their attention to the stars in hopes of discovering new things. After investigating the outer planets, the second spacefaring explorer pursued a different route, and it too has a stellar rendezvous approaching the same 40,000-year mark. It is expected to travel close to Ross 248, an additional red dwarf in the Andromeda constellation, about 10 light-years away. Ross 248 will not notice the passing spacecraft, just like Gliese 445. The probes are merely stops along an endless journey for these stars. The second vessel also has its own golden record, a time capsule from Earth that includes music from many civilizations, greetings in other languages, and the sounds of the wind, waves, and other natural phenomena. This record, a hopeful message in a bottle thrown into the ocean of space, captures Earth as it was at the moment of the launch. It will continue to drift after Ross 248 until our Sun is just another dim star in its course, getting farther and farther away. It is nearly impossible to comprehend the scope of this mission. On time scales that are almost unfathomable, these two tiny vessels, each about the size of a car, are covering distances. There is a scenario 40,000 years in the future that is beyond our current comprehension. The planet may change irrevocably, civilizations may rise and fall, and even new life forms may appear. These adventurers will continue to roam the world. Long after everything we know has changed, they are our quiet ancestors, moving through the galaxy. Our curiosity, our desire to explore, and our optimism that we are not alone in the universe are all carried by them. The crafts won't just halt when they come into contact with these stars. For millions of years, they will keep cruising around the galaxy and joining the orbit of the Milky Way, making enormous orbits around the cosmos. These explorers are likely to continue their journey, unlike planets or asteroids that might collide or be ripped apart by gravity. They are our signals to the future, reminders of a time when a species on a tiny blue planet decided to look up at the sky and try to figure out what was out there. Silent and alone, they serve as evidence that once humanity had the courage to venture into the immense unknown. These explorers will continue to travel through space even after our sun is a far-off speck in millions of years. They will pass past innumerable stars, and perhaps, just perhaps, they will be discovered eventually. Maybe a highly developed society will come across these artifacts from a different era and discover something about ourselves. Or maybe they will continue to travel indefinitely, unseen and unaffected, serving as reminders of the time when people first grasped for the stars. Tiny, delicate, and remarkably tenacious, they bear witness to the era when an inquisitive species ventured beyond their Earth, bringing humanity's hopes and inquiries into the cosmos. Is the Voyagers a forgotten murmur in the expanse of space, or are they our greatest enduring legacy? Please subscribe for further updates and leave a comment if this gets you thinking.